I never had this growing up. Not from my mom, not from my grandmother. A lot of you, your mothers made you breakfast since you were young. Maybe even still today. Your grandparents, grandmother made you breakfast when you were younger. Maybe even still today. But I never had this, man. My girlfriend made this for me because I told her it's what I wanted. You know, grits, eggs, turkey sausage, and yeah, man. This goes hand in hand with the video, man, because I've never had this, man. I never had this from my grandmother. So, with that being said, let's get into it. I'll never forget the time my mom was in the psych ward of a Yale New Haven hospital. And this was some time after she had got married in her previous marriage. And I was younger. I was between like 11 and 13 when my mom married this man. I told her not to marry him, and she did it anyway. She ended up being diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And she went mad, man. She went mentally ill, so she had to be in the mental hospital. And during this time, man, I remember there being nothing in the house to eat, and I was starving. So I called my grandmother, and my grandmother lived, I kind of lived in the suburbs, but the hood was a good 10 minute bike ride, 10 15 minute bike ride from where I lived. So you had a lot of hood dudes coming to where I lived and stuff like that, even going to the schools I went. But my grandmother lived deep in the suburbs to where, you know what I'm saying, there was none of that going on. You know, there was no bike ride. You had to actually drive a car to go out there. So I called my grandmother, told her I was hungry, and there was no food there. So you know what she did? She came and she brought in a plastic bag. She had a banana, a sandwich, and a bottle of water. Yep. Mind you, again, my grandmother lived in the suburbs. She lived in a good, nice sized house in the suburbs. My grandmother never worked through her whole marriage, and my grandfather was working at a really good job called Pratt Whitney. If you know what that is, they help build like airplane parts, I believe, something like that. And yeah, nice size house, very nice, very clean. They had money, they were well off. But yeah, she brought me a banana, a sandwich, and a bottle of water. My grandmother. Yeah, I was extremely disappointed, man. My grandmother was never really a real grandmother. When I hung out with my friends and I started to date and I started to see how their grandparents were, how their grandparents treated them and their grandmothers and stuff like that, man, I wouldn't say I was jealous. I would just say, what's the word I want to use? I would just say I was very observant, and I compared it to my situation. I know you can't choose your family, you can't choose your grandparents, but man, it hurts when you know that your grandparents are well off and they just, you feel like they just don't truly love you, you know? And love is more than just saying it. It's the actions. It's what you do to help your grandchildren, grow when they're going through their younger years and they're developing, man. And I never got that from them. And I'm older now, so I don't expect them to reach out and stuff now, and I really don't care. But when I was younger, yeah, they definitely could have and should have done a lot more. Now, my mom is a black sheep. When I say black sheep, I mean her my grandmother's husband is not my real grandfather. That's my step grandfather, would be her stepfather, but she looked at him as her real father because he pretty much raised her. Yeah, so my mom, he was my step grandfather, my mom's stepdad, but she pretty much raised him, so she considered him like a dad. But the thing is, my mom had two other siblings. No, more, three other siblings, four actually. She had two other sisters and two brothers, two younger brothers. So I honestly feel like my grandmother should have just kept her legs closed. You know what I'm saying? After she had my mom, you know, because the thing is, you're not with that father anymore. Then you get with this dude, and you pretty much expect him to be a stepdaddy to your one while having pretty much like four other kids. So of course, one of them is gonna get neglected, and that ended up being me. My mom didn't really get neglected, you know what I'm saying, when she was growing up, but me being a grandson of them, I got neglected 100%. And I even remember shortly after my mom got out the hospital and stuff like that, she ended up getting her divorce. So I asked my grandparents if I could go live with them, and I was told that they don't want anybody living in their basement. And they had a finished basement with like three bedrooms. You know what I'm saying? Not including the regular upstairs when they had their own space. But nobody was using that space, and I couldn't even go stay with them. I also remember my step grandfather at one point, he had a Cadillac, a nice Cadillac. It was all white, peanut butter interior, very nice. And I was getting up to the age where I was going to start to get my license to try to start driving. And he told me that he was going to pretty much give me that car and help me out. I mean, you know how happy I was, man, at my young age. You know what I'm saying? I was pretty much like in the 10th grade of high school, stuff like that, really getting into girls. And I was like, man, I could take girls out. I could drive myself to work. I could get a lot done. I was really, really excited. So a little bit of time went by, and I asked my mom. I said, "Yeah, what's going on with the Cadillac?" Granddad said about. He ended up giving a Cadillac to my cousin, my female cousin, which was one of my mom's sister's daughter. And you know what she did? She ruined it. She drove it until it ran out of oil. She didn't get any work done to it. Yeah. So yeah, that also really hurt me. Now, when my mom was working at A1 Toyota, she was working at the car dealership, and she was working a lot of late nights and stuff like that. My grandmother watched me. I did stay with my grandmother, but it wasn't exciting. I just remember sitting in front of the TV, watching TV. I'm pretty sure she did feed me. I ate some stuff, nothing that I can remember that was so great and so exciting besides Thanksgiving when we got together every once in a while. But I just remember my grandmother watching me and me just watching TV. And then I would get bored and maybe I would go in the backyard. Excuse me, I would hit the wiffle ball. I would hit the wiffle ball by myself and stuff like that. I would shoot hoops, shoot the basket. They had a little basketball court. I would shoot the basketball by myself sometimes. And also I had an uncle, which was one of their sons. He's probably still living there to this day. He's been living there for years. And which was one of my mom's brother, the younger brother. And he had a lot of video games, a lot of old school video games, Nintendos, GameCube, all the stuff, Dreamcast. Every once in a while, if he felt like in a good mood, he would let me come in his room and we would play video games together. But that was very rare. But besides that, it was very boring when my grandmother would watch me. She didn't take me shopping. She didn't take me to the. And I don't want to make it seem like, oh, my grandmother should have spoiled me. I'm a spoiled little brat that wish she did this. I'm just saying, a lot of things that I saw my other friends when I was hanging around with their grandparents and their grandmothers do with them and treat them, it was just totally different. My grandmother never took me shopping, never, what I'm saying, took me to buy clothes or anything like that. Never took me out to eat, like, what I'm saying, at a restaurant where we sat down. None of this stuff. It just wasn't real love, like the home baked cookies, walking to my grandparents' house, walk in the kitchen, see what I got to eat, make my own sandwich. Like I couldn't do these things. I didn't have the freedom. I didn't feel as comfortable. They didn't make me feel as comfortable. Even my birthdays, man. My birthdays, I've never got any serious real gifts. Christmas, I remember I got maybe like a pair of socks. And then you could look back and say, well, there were a lot of you guys. There were a lot of grandchildren and stuff like that. And I get it. I understand. But what I want you to understand watching this video is that my mom's siblings, like her sisters and her brothers, they treated their kids way different. Like, yes, the females, my aunts, what I'm saying, they were trying to find men and boyfriends, but they never really put men before their children. Their children still had nice clothes, nice sneakers, good food, good home cooking, the love. What I'm saying? My mom didn't know how to cook. My mom didn't know how to wash clothes. My mom didn't care to make sure I had clothes for school. My mom didn't care about anything going on with my schooling, my education, put me in sports. Like my cousins, my siblings, they were in sports. One was running track, one was doing football. You know what I'm saying? Like my aunts, they made sure that my cousins were doing things and extracurricular activities. You know what I'm saying? Playing sports. You know what I'm saying? Living in clean houses. Like, yeah, I was in a decent area. My mom had me in, but the house wasn't clean. My mom was not clean. She let stuff accumulate and create dust. She the refrigerator and the microwave looked like bugs exploded and blown up on it. She would leave it like that. Like my mom just became nasty and dirty. The tub had ring around it. It was a sliding door tub. There was dirt and gook and all inside of it. And it was just like, for anybody that says, "Oh, why did you clean it?" Man, I'm a kid. And my mom, before she got married, she was very clean. After her marriage pretty much destroyed her. The marriage that I told her at like 11, 12 years old not to get into, it destroyed her. My grandmother considers herself a godly person. I always remember my mom being on the phone. They would be quoting scriptures together and stuff like this, talking about God. But how can my grandmother consider herself a godly person, a woman of God, when you treat your own grandson the way she treated me? Especially knowing that my real grandfather, you're not with him anymore. You've been left him a long time ago. So I should have gotten extra love. I should have gotten extra affection, extra attention. I should have been able to come and stay with her in my basement, regardless of what my step grandfather thought. Because I don't know if he was one of her ear telling her, no, don't do it. But regardless, she should have fought to make sure that I got the love, care, and support that I needed, that I deserved out of all the other grandchildren. Because again, you have to remember, all the other grandchildren came from better homes. Their parents cared more. You know, I say a good three of my younger cousins, two parent household. They have my uncle and my step aunt, whatever you want to call it. My other cousins, yeah, single mom, but again, like I said, she provided more. She worked a good job. She worked in the hospital, in the healthcare business. She could afford to give them good clothes and make them look presentable to school. Me, I was wearing my other friends' sneakers, my other friends' clothes. My grandmother didn't care about none of that. My grandmother didn't care if I didn't have no food in the house. I said in a previous story when I talked about my mom and stuff like that, but my mom was stealing from me through my whole high school. My years of high school, she was stealing from me. There was checks coming in the mail with my name on them from disability. That disability, she was already getting paid through disability because she was on disability after she got diagnosed with bipolar. She couldn't really work full time. But then disability had some program or something going on where they were sending me checks, like $600-700 checks a month. And this was back in like early 2000s, like 05, 06. So you know how much that could have benefited me, especially when my grandfather did what he did about the car. I could have bought my own car. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, she was stealing these checks from me, forging my signature and cashing them. And I even called the place. I actually called the disability place to make sure that just because my name was on these checks that they weren't from my mom, because I just discovered it one day in the mail. I checked the mail because my mom wasn't home. She usually takes the mail, but I checked it and I saw my name and I opened it and I said, "What is this?" I called my grandfather. You know, my grandmother. My grandmother defended my mother. Oh, she needs that to pay the bills, to keep the roof over your head, for a mortgage, blah, 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 blah. I never got a fair chance when it came to my mother, when it came to my grandmother, when it came to my step grandfather. I never got a fair chance, man. I never got a fair chance. You know what I'm saying? And I was forced to run the streets. My grandmother and my grandparents didn't want to let me stay with them. Luckily, you know what I'm saying, I met some white girls. You know, I started falling for white women, and I was able to, you know, get in a serious relationship with her, and I was able to stay with her, and we developed a life together. It didn't work out, but that was what helped me, because I did run the streets. I started to run the hood, hanging with the wrong crowd. You know what I'm saying? Shooting guns, you know, getting shot at, selling drugs, drinking at a very young age. You know what I'm saying? Put myself in very dangerous situations. And I felt like this was all because, you know what I'm saying, I didn't get the support from my grandparents. They didn't want to let me stay with them. Again, my grandparents lived in the suburbs. There was no hood stuff going on. I could have stayed with my grandparents. I could have worked a job, maybe took some extracurricular activities, you know what I'm saying, further my education, and I could have made something of myself with their help. And I know me as a grandparent, if I was a grandfather, I would have been proud to know that I let my step grandson, you know, stay with me and he got his life together because his mother couldn't get it right. You know, just think about that. Just think about that, man. Them letting me stay in the suburbs and get a strict job. There was no way I would have been able to get in trouble. I would have worked or went to school, came straight home. Same thing, same routine. And I was young. So by the time I hit my 20s, you know what I'm saying? By the time I hit like, you know, 25, 26, I would have had my stuff together. Now my younger uncle, which is their youngest child that still lives, he works at Pratt and Whitney. My grandfather got him a job at Pratt and Whitney. He's been working there for years. They have not been charging him rent, obviously, because that's their son. He's been living there for years. He has multiple cars, a street bike. You know what I'm saying? And he has to be a millionaire by now. He has to be. Remember, like I said, back in like 05, 06, I asked them to stay with, if I could stay with them. They said no. And my uncle has been living there since then. The one that I said earlier with the video games, the Dreamcast, the GameCube. He has no girlfriend, no friends, stayed to himself, you know. Even on Thanksgiving, when we had the huge functions at my grandparents' house for Thanksgiving and stuff like that, Christmas, we would get together. My uncle would stay in his room. He really wouldn't come out of his room much. He was really isolated. If you ever seen the movie Soul Food, he was that one uncle that, yeah, you put the food outside the door and he really stayed to himself. We all knew him that way. And like I said, he didn't have a girlfriend. He didn't have friends. He didn't really go anywhere. He didn't hang with anybody. He literally just stayed in his room. He worked and stayed in his room. So I can imagine how much money he has and how much money he saved up. And my grandparents didn't want to help me out with that opportunity. Knowing how messed up my mom was in her head, how she married that dude, how she became bipolar, how she didn't make sure I had food on the table every night, didn't make sure I had proper clothes on my back, didn't make sure I had to help with schooling, homework, education. Knowing all this stuff. And the reason why I'm making this video, if you really want to know why I'm making this video still here, is because You watching this video, you probably have great grandparents, or you know what I'm saying, you know somebody, a friend that has great grandparents. Again, maybe if you're watching this, you have a great relationship with your grandparents, your grandmother, you love your grandmother. You walk in, oh, my grandmother makes those brownies, those cookies I love. My grandmother always has good food, good leftovers. My grandma's always invite me over to eat. And be thankful, man. Be thankful that you have a good grandmother, a good grandfather, whatever. If they're still together, they're still alive. And even if they passed away, if they were really good to you, if you have really good memories, cherish those memories. Because I don't have those, and I never will have that. So be thankful, man. Be extremely thankful if you have good grandparents, man. I cannot stress that enough. Because I shouldn't even be making this kind of video. But the reason why I'm making this video is to kind of help people understand why I'm at where I'm at in the situation I'm at in life, and why I always I've promoted dating white women as a melanated man, because that they have helped me. White women have helped me, man, through my whole life. I didn't get help from my own family. I didn't get help from my own grandparents. Me dating a white girl when I was young, taking her serious, man. Her mother treated me like I was her son, pretty much called me her son even though I was dating her daughter. Let me stay and live with them, fed me, even helped me put clothes on my back. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff that my own grandparents were supposed to do, my own grandmother was supposed to do. My grandfather's retired from Pratt and Whitney, man. He's definitely sitting on some money. I'm not saying he's a millionaire, but he's definitely sitting on 6 figures for sure. And their son, which is my uncle, he's definitely got to be a millionaire by now. And they're living good in the suburbs. Home is paid off. Still got the finished basement, 3 bedrooms. I say about 2 years ago, I tried to reconnect with my aunt, and she was telling me how she lost her apartment, or she was going through some hardships, and my younger cousin, it was her and my younger cousin, she asked them if they could stay, you know what I'm saying, until they could find their own place, and my grandparents told them no. Now this is their blood daughter. Both my step grandfather and my real grandmother, this is their blood daughter. They told them no, but we'll give you some money so you can, you know what I'm saying, get an apartment, and you pay us back when you can. So you won't let them stay with you, but you'll let them borrow. Not even give, you let them borrow money. And then pay it back when she can. This is the type of grandparents I have, man. This is why when they get buried, I will not show up to the funeral. I will not show up to the funeral because there was no love there. You never showed me any real love or any care. When you didn't let me stay with you, I was honestly homeless. I was honestly homeless at some point. Before, you know what I'm saying, I met, you know what I'm saying, my girlfriend, the white girlfriend at the time I was dating, man, I was homeless, man. They didn't care about what happened to me when they told me no, I couldn't stay with them. Because you know what happened? My mom was so sick in the head, man. She had a marshal evict me. I was working my 7 to midnight shift at Dunkin' Donuts, man, 7 p.m. to 12. And I had a marshal walk in around like 8, 9 o'clock and serve me papers, told me that my mom had put a protective order against me. Said I was emotionally and mentally abusive. So when I got out of work at 12 o'clock, I was not allowed to go to the house unless I had a police officer there to try to get some things just for that night until I could come back another day and get the rest of them. Yeah, she made me homeless at 12 o'clock at night. I didn't even know what was going to happen. Of course, me and her didn't get along. She married a dude I told her not to marry. She ended up being diagnosed with bipolar. She was never the same. When him and her got a divorce, me and her argued every day. Of course. She let the house go to shits, literally. No food in the fridge. I was literally, I had no car of my own. Left with nothing, no help. My education was pretty much done. I was a dropout. I eventually went back and got my GED. But yeah, I was angry because she put so much focus into this marriage instead of worrying about me as an adolescent coming up, going through middle school, going through high school. When you have a child, man, your child is your number one. I should have been her number one priority. Not her trying to find a man. But she was selfish. She was extremely selfish, man. But yeah, man, 12 o'clock at night, I was homeless. And you know what the cop said? The cop said, your mom is crazy. He said, I felt sorry for you, man, because the whole time, 12 o'clock at night, I'm trying to get some of my stuff. She's, Mama, I'm sorry, Denver, I'm sorry. And the cop's like, man, did you know she's going to do this? You know, I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, she's not right. She's over here running her mouth and she's going on and on. And she's telling her she's sorry, but she did this to you. So yeah, man, if my grandparents ever get a hold of this video, if they ever see this video, if one of my family members sees it and shares it with them, listen, man, And you probably don't care, but I'm just gonna tell you, man. When you die, whether you get cremated or buried, man, I don't care. I really don't. It's not gonna affect me, man. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not gonna be sad because you weren't there for me. You didn't care. I could have got shot. I could have got shot and killed dead in the streets, man, from running the streets because I didn't have any help from you, from either one of you. Yeah, you Henry. Yeah, you Sarah. I'm saying names. I really don't care. We're not done with this video, man. Thank you if you're still here. Before I go, so again, like I said, man, that was my step grandfather. I told you that, right? So at one point in my life, after I broke up with my girlfriend that was letting me stay with her and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? I ran into a cousin of mine, but not really a blood cousin because it was on my step grandfather's side of the family or whatever. But me and him got cool. We kind of connected, and you know what I'm saying? We started talking about names and stuff like that. Yeah, that's your cousin, that's your family. Yeah, I know Henry, da 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 da. And I ended up, you know what I'm saying? We ended up being cool for a little while. But I ended up staying with my step grandfather's side of the family. I want to say his aunt. It was either my step grandfather's aunt, something like that. It was his side of the family, but it was in a hood, man. It was in a hood. So my step grandfather Henry, he would come visit. He would come visit her every once in a while in the hood. He lived in the suburbs with my real grandmother, but he would still come visit her in the hood, and I was staying with her at some point because I had nowhere else to go. You know what I'm saying? I was just trying to get in where I could fit in, man. And she was nice enough to let me stay with her because I brought up that Sarah, his wife, my real grandmother, that was my grandmother. She was like, "Oh, you pretty much like family then." So just let that sink in. So no, my real grandmother, my step grandfather didn't want to let me live with them, but his side of the family, his aunt, let me stay because she said, "Oh, you're pretty much family." Now I'm living in the hood, man. I'm living with roaches, man. I'm talking about you open the fridge, there's just roaches going everywhere, man. It was disgusting, but I did what I had to do, man. This is what it was, better than nothing. And I saw this man, man. I saw him one day because I was upstairs. This was like a three floor house, like a 3 family house. It was different floors, whatever. And I was staying at the top. I was actually staying with what I call my aunt. You know what I'm saying, on his side of the family. And I saw him pull up in his Benz. All black Benz, man, fully loaded, peanut butter interior. I see him pull up, man. Look at this dude. Fancy clothes, coming to visit her. It was crazy, man. He had to know at some point. He had to know I was staying there. If he didn't know then, he knew a little bit after that I was staying there, man. Another reason why I would never go to the funeral, man, when they pass away. It's just crazy. It's crazy. I'm very, very blessed to be in a situation I am in now. You know what I'm saying? I own my own home. But again, it was with the help of a white woman who found interest in me and you know what I'm saying, loved me, pretty much chased me through different states, you know? And I actually finally took her serious, and I'm glad I did. Now I own my own home. But yeah, man, I don't know where I would be if it wasn't for the help of white women. That's not what this video is about. It's not about white women. It's really about the relationship with my grandparents. But I didn't get no help and no love from my grandparents, and I ended up getting more help from white women, man, through my whole life. So again, I'm in this video with saying, man, if you have grandparents that love you, that support you, that were there for you, that, you know what I'm saying, gave you nice Christmas gifts, gave you nice birthday gifts, appreciate them, man. Love them. Be thankful for them, because I didn't have none of that. None of that, man. None of it. And I'm not sad. I'm not hurt for it or anything like that. I just want to, you know, come up here and talk about this so you get to know the real me a little bit more. I'm sorry if the video was choppy. I'm sorry if I was all over the place. Really, because I'm trying to eat now. My food got cold. I got to reheat it. But, you know, I decided to do this video. Y'all didn't ask for it. So I'm not trying to blame anybody or anything like that. But yeah, man, a lot of thoughts in my head. It was hard to get them out. I may have even missed a few things, but I just really want to come up here and talk about that, man. My grandparents, they ain't shit. They never will be shit to me. And that's just what it is. So comment down below. Let me know your experiences with your grandparents, your family, or whatever. If you want to talk about your mom, aunt, whoever it is, I definitely read all comments. Like the video if you appreciate the video, and subscribe to the channel, man. Subscribe to the channel because it means a lot to me. Thank you for all the people that are subscribing. I'll catch you in the next one, man. Peace and love.